What is something that sounds safe but actually isn't? From my friend, who works in government studying accidents duck boats. Having used to go to Branson almost yearly, can confirm. Every other year it seemed that there's a new call to shut them down after an accident. Grain silos. People die every year because they explode with static electricity, edit and a lot of other ways too, including cave-ins, suffocation, burning, and other scary things. Thanks for educating me more on the ways grain silos can kill you. For sure. We had a very large explosion in my home state. I remember my chemistry teacher explaining to us how it happened. During his demonstration he managed to create a small explosion and also catch his podium on fire. We were all sworn to secrecy and I have never spoken of it until now. Approximately 23 years later. Mr. May, I hope you've retired by now and I don't get you fired. Everybody should rightfully know that Tidpod challenges were unsafe, but the more innocent one was the cinnamon challenge. Cinnamon powder does not mix with water, so the instant reflex from the body was to cough to get rid of this unknown substance. But the inhale of air to cough with could cause you to inhale the cinnamon into your lungs, and that could cause serious harm or even death if severe enough. I had an adult challenge me to this when I was like 11. Of course I did it. I aspirated the cinnamon and coughed and threw up for like 20 minutes. No amount of drinking liquids helped, and I honestly thought I was going to die. The person who challenged me laughed the whole time. It was very cruel, and as an adult now, I cannot even fathom challenging a child to do that. Mouthing off to a stranger. You never know how crazy they might be, or if they have a weapon. Just bite your tongue. I barely honk on the road when dealing with a bad driver pedestrian. I'm terrified of road rage. I live in a major city and shootings have recently become very common on the expressways here. It sucks and I try to avoid anyone driving questionably. Telling your our department how you really feel about your boss. A lot of people get fired, not because of what they have done, but because of what they say. Keep your mouth shut, unless you absolutely have to. Going in a car without a headrest on your seat. It's not just a pillow for comfort. What's the consequence of not? Whiplash. You'll get one anyway, but at least your neck will not snap all the way back, because the headrest is stopping you from doing so. Depending on the height of the cab, it can prevent a passenger that isn't wearing their seatbelt from flying around from back to front. There are a significant amount of vehicle accident deaths that happen because someone in the vehicle not wearing a seatbelt bounces around, smashing the heads of the other occupants that are wearing seatbelts. Bison. Like the wild big cow looking animals. I grew up around them, and I see too many tourists in Yellowstone going to take a selfie with one. Those big mother duckers will kill you without batting an eye. I saw a guy approach a large bull, carrying their child, followed closely by the mother with camera. Honestly looked like he was planning to place the kid on its back for a picture. Fortunately the bison started walking away. On that same trip a bison walked through our campsite. We got in the van and watched it poke its head into our tent, then scratch its chin on a post inches from the window. Very cool to see a calm one that close. Also sobering knowing a 2,000 pounds animal could say hello again at any moment. Safes. They will bloody well crunch your fingers if you're not careful. I honestly get nervous closing the safe at work. If I slam a finger in there, it takes 2 minutes to reopen it, and that's if I have the ability to get the key and my code in there. Use a tool to push it shut. Same as using a tool to feed wood through a table saw. Can't be safe if you don't feel safe. Walking up or down stairs. Broke both my ankles tripping down the last 3 steps 2 weeks ago. Doctors were confused as to how I did both. No idea. Trip. Pain. Headbutt the radiator. Hey. Don't feel bad. Tripped and fractured my tibial plateau, basically my knee. I've not been able to walk for over a month. Ducking stairs. Interacting with a giant anteater. Their claws can kill a jaguar without much issue. Farming. Everyone thinks about bucolic pastures, pretty red barns and cute little critters running around. But farming is the 6th most dangerous occupation in the United States. Higher than law enforcement, firefighters, power line workers and iron workers. Most of farming deaths involve accidents with machinery, but grain storage deaths are high as well. If a farmer falls into, say, a bean of canola, he sinks to the bottom and suffocates fairly quickly, as well as the unfortunate ones that fall into pig manure pits and drown in liquid shit. Farm animals also kill a lot of farmers too, because a 180-pound man doesn't have good odds going up against a 1200-pound cow. Plus the fact that no one talks about is the mental health related deaths. Farming is incredibly stressful and suicide deaths in the farming community is rising steadily. One of the worst things is how isolating a lot of the work can feel, especially outside of harvests, and just how isolated everything is in general. Really makes it hard to react during any sort of emergency. Shit, my grandpa died at 61 from an otherwise treatable heart problem, because it took 40 minutes for an ambulance just to get there. One of the worst things is how isolating a lot of the work can feel, especially outside of harvests. Farming's also a top 10 profession for suicide risk. Not only is it often isolating, but you also have the pressures of being a small business owner, along with what's often the pressure of generations of family expectation. It's bad enough having a small social circle, or having to sell your business, but it's worse when you have that and also are talking about selling something that's been in your family for 100 years. To be clear, these aren't issues that I'm personally facing, but they are common in the ag industry. Yes, it's an industry, just like any other field of work. Some stories about families who have dealt with this link. Dryer lint. Clear your dry vents. People, whenever I'm camping and need to absolutely start a fire with a single spark, I use dryer lint. So, do you carry it around with you, or is it just some stuff you pulled out of a forgotten pocket? Take dryer lint and a little bit of petroleum jelly and put them in a Ziploc bag. Just keep it in a side pocket and dry. When you need a fire, pull some out, light it, and it'll burn a long enough time to catch your wood on fire. Great for emergencies. I stick it in a paper towel tube. The cardboard extends the burn time just a bit too. Cleaning a cat's litter box with bleach. Don't mix ammonia and bleach. You'll be committing a war crime. Yeah, no. As a first-time cat owner as of 2 weeks ago, this isn't something that I realized. I mean, I knew the whole don't mix ammonia and bleach thing, but I didn't make the cat plus ammonia connection until just now. Thanks. Trampolines. The Canadian Pediatric Society warns against buying them at all for use by kids and teens. Link. My dad literally made friends' parents sign waivers before the friends were allowed to be on our trampoline. My dad did this too. A lot of people thought he was crazy, but it always seemed prudent considering how lawsuit happy the US is. Then there was our experience in a foreign country, where a neighbor girl maybe 8 years old broke her arm falling off our trampoline, and her parents marched her over after getting back from having a cast put on her arm, and made her apologize for falling off of our trampoline. Then the parents apologized profusely as well, as if their daughter had, in her clumsiness and misfortune, shamed their entire family and all their ancestors. Once my dad recovered from shock, he sent her flowers and a get well soon card. Four-wheelers. So many injuries and deaths from people who don't respect what they can do and just how easy they are to topple. My sister passed some years back at 19 years old on a four-wheeler she had just purchased. She was trying to get to a wooded area on the other side of a neighborhood. She was with friends who were also riding their own. She had a girlfriend on the back of hers who was a little heavy set. In order to get to the area they had to cross a small drainage ditch, maybe 4-5 foot from the bank to the bottom of it. It was completely dry. She attempted to go up it straight ahead, and with the girl on the back, my understanding is that when she gassed it, the front tires left the ground, flipping it over backwards on top of them. The passenger was thrown to the side, but my sister held on, probably out of shock, and the weight of the entire thing came down on her head via the handlebars, pinching her between that and the concrete. By the time any help arrived, she was already gone. If you take anything from this story or the hundreds of others you're likely to read about in your life, wear a helmet. Anything can happen in the blink of an eye. Well, I don't know if this actually sounds safe, but trampolines. People think by putting the netting around them, etc., that you won't get hurt. Think again. You are one awkward landing from lots of potentially life-changing injuries. I have personally gotten to view the inside of an adult foot ankle because of a trampoline. Putting out an engine fire with a bucket full of water. As someone who knows very little about engines. Why? Today I learned giving babies water. If I'm honest, fair rides. You'd think it'd be safe. It's surrounded by a lot of people. So if anything were to happen, help would be there straight away. And there's all these safety precautions. But the amount of things that have gone wrong way too often is scary. Edit here with these replies. I most definitely don't see myself going one in the future again. However, tell me more stories, I wanna know. You're also interesting. When I was a teenager, I got stuck on a witch's wheel link at a fair. It shorted out and got stuck in the on position. It ran for about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, before they figured out what was wrong and got it to stop. It ran full tilt at a 45-degree angle for the entire time. I have never been sicker in my life. My friends took me home, and I couldn't walk to my front door. I laid in the backyard, puking. My mother yelled at me because she thought I was drunk. But my friends explained what happened. I will never ride another spinny ride again. Ever. Duck that. Using a dull knife rather than a sharp one. Really like this one. It sounds so safe. Well, it's not sharp, so it won't cut as easily. But it's so dangerous because you have to press harder and have way less control. The cuts with a dull knife are also quite terrible. Half crush wound, half cut wound. Riding a horse. Those duckers will kill you in a heartbeat. Don't put your feet up on the dashboard of a car when you're riding in the front seat. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a seatbelt. Your kneecaps are gonna go through your skull if you get in an accident. I used to do it all the time when I was younger. Now I want to scream every time I see it. This is my mom's big thing. She got in a wreck while her leg was on the dash and ended up crushing her nose. It's been reconstructed twice now, and her ankle went to a 45 angle. She went into shock and woke up with 6 screws going through the bottom of her foot. She now has a completely titanium ankle after failed reconstruction surgeries and hobbling around on a dying bone and floating bone fragments for 30 years. Needless to say, my sister and I have never put our feet there. Funny bonus story: my mom, aunt, and their friends were on their way back from picking up McDonald's when the accident happened. Months later, my family was wondering what happened to the food, and it turned out my uncle took it home and ate it while everyone else went to the hospital. They call it the blood burger. Boating. I'm a boat mechanic, but I didn't have much boating experience before I started working on them, and I was pretty caught off guard to discover how dangerous it can be. Everyone thinks of boating as this idyllic family activity, and it usually is. But a staggering amount of shit can go wrong on the water and leave you stranded or worse. There are submerged objects like rock formations and logs that can cause you to get ejected and or sink your boat. It's fairly easy to forget a plug and sink your boat. It happens frequently. Most boat owners have no idea how to operate a boat safely or even competently. It's trickier than you might think. It takes some experience and technique. Alcohol abuse among boaters is rampant. People often don't secure their trailer correctly to the tow vehicle not latched. Wrong bull hitch size. Unsecured, improperly secured safety chains, etc. People don't service their trailers. Wheels fall off from lack of grease. I'd conservatively estimate that 30% of trailer brakes don't work. Goes up logarithmically with age of the trailer. Give boat trailers a wide berth on the freeway. Often people don't follow basic safety like life jackets and kill lanyards. You can hit a big wave and get knocked away from the controls, and your boat is now a self-guided missile. If you're swimming behind a running boat, you can pass out from the fumes and drown. You can get chopped to bits by the propeller. You can get hit by a boat being driven by a drunk, inexperienced, or incompetent person. A fuel leak can cause a buildup of fumes in the bilge that gets ignited by engine electronics. It goes on and on. Holding your breath while scuba diving. If you are sent from depth with your airways closed while breathing compressed air, you are at extreme risk of rupturing a lung, damaging your alveoli, and or suffering from other lung overexpansion injuries. This is because, when you take a breath under significant external pressure, the air you breathe in much more dense, and so your lungs can get more of it per breath. But as the pressure acting on you lessens, the air in your lungs expands, and if your airways aren't open, your lungs will be damaged from the overpressure. It is an easily avoidable risk, but if ignored, the consequences are often deadly or at least permanently damaging. The acronym for the Securing Antarctica's Environmental Future Organization, SEAF. Sure, it sounds like safe, but it isn't safe. Garage door springs. People with anxiety get the duck out of this thread. Flushable wipes. They can actually clump together into big balls that clog your drain or worse, cause issues for the town's plumbing way down the line. Driving. Sitting down all day. Pregnancy. A woman's body is designed to perform this function. And yet you, and the thing you are growing inside you, can die or kill you. Joining our Wall Street butts just to browse. Pregnancy, childbirth. So many don't seem to know how many things can, and commonly does take place with that. The safety dance. But don't let me dissuade you, you can dance, if you want to. Leaving the house. Tylenol. This entire thread is slowly becoming the Lonely Island song, you only live once. A blind date. Call me old fashioned, but blind people scare me. They can read our minds.